All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, wherever you're listening from. Thank you for joining us in Talent View's Webinar Wednesdays. We really have an exciting day for you, or at least an exciting session for today. I'm joined by an amazing panel, and we're going to talk about everything new on talent acquisition, how to go digital in this new normal, or rather, this now normal when it comes to recruitment. So we're just waiting for everyone to come into the session from the lobby. So please feel free to say hi from wherever you are. Just share. If there are any pressing questions, even before we start, please don't hesitate to ask that, and we will endeavor to cover that throughout this entire session. All right, so I'm seeing participants coming in. We are also streaming this via Facebook Live. So please feel free to invite more people if you think that this topic will be relevant to them. So good morning again for all those that are just joining us today. For those that are waiting with us, please use the hashtag Webinar Wednesday or hashtag TalentViewLearning if you're sharing this over LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever social media channel you prefer to share it on. All right, so just wanted to check our chat. My name is Ange, by the way. I'll be your moderator for this entire session. So hi to Grisabel Dalay joining us from Quezon City, Philippines. Hello, Stuart from Singapore. Thank you all for joining us today. So we'll wait a quick minute. And as we're doing that, reminding everybody again that you can use the hashtags, hashtag Webinar Wednesday or hashtag TalentViewLearning as you're sharing this on your social media channels. And for those that haven't grabbed their cup of coffee yet, or maybe water, this is your chance. This is your time. So please feel free as we wait for all our participants to just jump into the webinar. Hello from Harriet from Batangas City, Philippines. Thank you for joining us today. Awesome, awesome to see everybody coming in. All right, I think we're good to go. For the rest that are following, feel free to jump in with any of your questions. But for now, I'll start and share with you what you see on your screen. So you've got some Zoom tabs that I wanted to direct your attention to, just in case this is your first time to use Zoom on a different device. So you've got on your upper right, the enter full screen view. So if it's not wide enough, large enough for you, feel free to expand that using the full screen view button. On your bottom right, bottom center rather, there's also a raise hand function. So just raise your hand. Quick thing, raise your hand if you're good to go. I'd like to see who are the participants that are up and about and ready to start. Wow, so a lot of participants coming in, raising their hands. Awesome, thanks so much. And then we've got a Q&A button. So again, anytime that you have a question, just pop it right there and we'll see when it's best to pick it up for the entire webinar. And then letting you know as well that we are recording this session and that we will share with you the entire recording as well as all the presentation slides we are sharing today. All right, so let's start and move on to a quick introduction of TalentView. For those that are hearing about TalentView for the first time, just wanted to do a very quick introduction and share with you that TalentView really focuses on 3 core pillars of employer branding. The first one is strategy. So if you're a company that knows that employer branding is important, but at this point hasn't really started to embrace the tenets of employer branding or how to roll out and lay down a strategy, then we're happy to help and work with you on that. We also have a team of creators, multimedia designers, graphic designers, video editors that can help on design. So if you want to communicate better with your talent, resonate more with your audience, we can also help you in terms of designing and rolling out the aesthetic of your employer brand. And last but not the least, a very important pillar, which we're going to talk more about today, is technology. So when you're talking about employer branding and you're trying to reach 1,000 people, 10,000 people, you can't do that manually. So you've got to employ the right tools, the right technologies for you to take off and make sure that you're reaching your audience. And you'll notice there are a lot of partners here. Our spotlight focus for today will be our partner Indeed. And we'll move on to the next slide. I'll talk about Indeed more later. and we definitely have a guest speaker, guest panelist to share more about Indeed as well. So just covering our agenda for today. Of course, this is what we call a forced digital disruption. I say forced because some people have been putting it off, some people have been pushing back the digital disruption activities, or at least moving into the digital transformation world. But now, because of this pandemic, this situation, this crisis, we've had to do everything remotely. We've had to use the tools that we're familiar with. We've had to use and adjust to certain technologies. So we're going to talk about three core things. The first is the state of the modern workforce. Where is talent right now? What are they doing? Are they looking for jobs? And how are companies responding to that? The second is how to embrace technology for talent acquisition. And the third is how to manage your digital transformation. So again, please use the hashtags Webinar Wednesday or hashtag TalentViewLearning in case you'll be sharing this on social media. All right, so let's move on and introduce our entire panel today. All right, so I'll start with myself. My name is Ange Vera. I'm the CEO of TalentView. I'm joined by the Southeast Asia Director for Indeed, Katie Birch, and also our very own Talent Measurement Head from TalentView, Diane Gonzalez. So I'll do the quick introductions as we go along so that later on, each panelist will present a few slides, and then after that, we can jump straight into the panel discussion and take your questions. All right. So just a brief introduction about me. As I mentioned, I lead TalentView across the ASEAN region, and currently we have about 200 clients that we're working with. So we've worked with all industries and all company sizes. So whether you're talking about BPO, fintech, FMCGs, customer service, whatever industry, we're sure to have helped a lot of companies there. And one of the things that I'm very proud of in terms of recruitment is that I've also written a book called Rethink Recruitment that talks about the new normal, essentially, and how companies should be rethinking their recruitment process to adjust to that. All right, and I am joined by Katie Birch, who is, as I mentioned, the Southeast Asian Director for Indeed, over 20 years of commercial experience in offline and online marketing and advertising. She's also an experienced coach, sales leader, and general manager for local and remote teams. And of course, a very, very passionate brand ambassador. So hi, Katie, thank you for joining us. All right. And last but not the least, we have Diane Gonzalez from TalentView as well, who is a corporate executive board certified level A and level B occupational and psychometric assessment trainer under the British Psychological Society. That's a mouthful, but that's really how you cover that entire certification. She's assessed more than 1,000 executives and team leaders from notable companies such as Accenture, Aboitiz, Hewlett-Packard, Holcim, and Lafarge. And she also has a master's degree in business administration and is a registered psychometrician. All right. Thank you. So that's a lot on our panel, and I hope that I've introduced them well as we jump into our first question. Our first question is going to be for our audience today, and I'm going to launch a quick poll just to get the pulse of the room, and I hope you have your cup of water, cup of coffee as we're moving along. All right, so my question is, what are your expectations for this session? Feel free to just weigh in. If you're an HR leader, you want to adjust accordingly. You're not in HR, but you're involved in TA, or you're involved in your company's employer brand initiatives, right? And there could be others as well. I'll give everybody a few seconds to think about their answer here. All right. A lot still thinking. I can see the poll progress. Last few seconds. Okay, all right, so let's see the results there. Okay, so 41% of us are HR leaders, and we want to know the trends, and we want to know how we can adjust to it. And there's 23% of us that are in talent acquisition in one way, shape, or form. And there's also 25% who are specifically involved in their employer brand initiatives. So thank you very much for responding to that quick poll. So I'm going to jump straight onto our slides, and I'll begin with the modern workforce just to set the tone and pace for today. All right, so let me do a quick screen share. And we're supposed to go. All right. There you go. All right. So let's just talk about the trends shaping the modern workforce very quickly. Of course, we now know that given the situation, it's mobile first. When we wake up in the morning, the first thing we do is check our phones. Let's be honest, you know, and I even hear complaints from other people that, Ange, before when we would eat, the first thing most people would do was say grace, or they would just look at their food and enjoy it before eating. But now, what's the thing that most people do right before they eat? They take a picture. So everything is mobile first. And this is something that when it comes to talent acquisition, we also need to embrace, because our talent also is following this particular trend and is doing everything from their mobile phones. Of course, you have millennials and Gen Z. It's not to single out specific generations, but just the fact that people are communicating in a very different way across these generations is something to note. There are, even now the codes get very, very complex. You've got your BRB, your GTG, and some people can adjust faster than others. But one thing's for sure, the way that each generation is choosing to communicate is seen very strongly in how they're doing that in social media and how they're doing that through the mobile first communications. And the last piece, of course, we experience this every day, is the shift in communications. So before, we used to be very familiar and comfortable with just email. But now, how are people communicating? Take a look at how social media chat apps, messaging apps have come into play more than the websites. And you'll really see that there's the shift in communications. We are slowly going back to what we're familiar with, as we're slowly learning new technologies as well. All right. So when we talk about employer branding specifically, TalentView conducted a research this year. It's called the Employer Brand Strengths Report. And we asked the question, what are your objectives for promoting your employer brand on social media? Why even show your job openings? Why showcase your company? And the number one thing that people said was they wanted to promote job openings to a wider reach. It really is still TA. It really still is recruitment. It still is talent acquisition. And whether that's one job or 500 job openings, it's so important to the growth of the business for us to fill the roles that it's still the number one reason why people would go on social media and promote their employer brand. Of course, followed by showcasing company culture to a wider talent market, showcasing your work environment, and also to raise employer brand awareness. Everybody wants to be a top employer. Everyone wants to be an employer of choice. That doesn't happen easily. You have to be very intentional and deliberate when doing that. All right. So when we ask the question, when it comes to investments, this is where it also gets exciting. It's obvious, but it's exciting because in 2019, when we asked the question of where's your budget going, a lot of people said we're going to increase our campus partnerships. 53% said they were going to increase their budget on campus. And they were also going to increase their budget in job and career fairs, 45%. So you get to see the dark blue color is where all the increase in budget will happen. But in 2020, obviously, you have this shift towards digital experiences. So we've put that on top of each other for you to see the difference. So where is the budget going to increase? Where is it going to stay the same? And where is it going to decrease? Right? So obviously, print media at the very bottom is going to decrease by more than half. Recruitment firms are going to decrease. 48% of companies are saying, I'm no longer going to employ recruitment firms. So where is the investment going? Take a look at the top two boxes, LinkedIn and Facebook. So just the social media channels where their talents are, and just purely on digital experiences. 34% and 33% respectively said that they're going to increase their budget on these digital platforms. All right, and now I wanted to share external data coming from our partners at We Are Social and Hootsuite, just proving for those who are not just in Asia, but for those in the Philippines, just proving that still we are the social media capital of the world. I am from the Philippines, by the way, and we are number one. So very competitive. The Philippines is here for this chart. So how much time each country is spending on average on social media? So Philippines leading at 3 hours 50 minutes. I've boxed in Indonesia, 3 hours and 18 minutes. Malaysia, 2 hours 55. Thailand, 2 hours 49. Vietnam, 2 hours 22. And Singapore, 2 hours and 17. You'll see that there's a white line. That's the normal or the benchmark. That's the average. So worldwide, most people around the world are spending 2 hours on social media. So this is where we are at, just to give you an idea. And when you start to think about what's my talent acquisition strategy, is it aligned to the data that's being presented here? That's a challenge for everybody joining us today. All right. So despite being the fastest despite being the social media capital of the world, we are among the slowest, sadly, in terms of internet connection speeds. So in this chart, Singapore is leading the way with 208 Mbps per second. No surprise there. Thailand 171, Malaysia 81, Vietnam 54, Philippines 23 Mbps, and followed by Indonesia 21 Mbps. So you also see the white line that says this is the worldwide benchmark or average. So that's something that we definitely will need to raise the bar on. But also, again, going back to talent acquisition, the challenge now is if we know that our audience is on social media, but their speeds, their download speeds, their bandwidth is not as fast, the challenge for us is what kind of content will work with this combination. Obviously, even if video is very nice to have, it may not work for some countries, or you may want to go with, say, short form videos for countries where bandwidth is not so strong. So these are some things to think about and reflect on. The other thing I wanted to share, social media behaviors. So how are behaviors changing? Let's take a look at the stats. I'm not going to jump through each one, but just the most salient ones, right? So between the ages 16 to 64, 99% of us have visited or used a social network or a messaging service in the past month. So worldwide, the way we're now using the web is back to communications. It's back to connecting with our network or exchanging in chats or messages. 99% have used a messaging app or have gone on a social network. And if you take a look, actively engaged with or contributed to social media in the past month, 88%. This number used to be lower. We were thinking in the past that, some people just go online and surf, but they don't really engage. They don't comment. They don't like. They don't share. But now we're seeing 88% will engage in one way, shape, or form. So if you're a company that's still thinking that my audience is, I can't engage with them on social, I can just promote my jobs, that's fast changing now. And the last thing that I wanted to point out was the extreme right side, where this number is rising. There's now 40% of people that use social media for work purposes. This number used to be in single digits, but now everybody is using, 40% are using social media for work. And we're seeing and expecting this number to rise even more over time. All right. So when we're looking for brands, going back to the concept of employer branding earlier in the modern workforce, when we're reviewing, when we're looking for companies to work for, who are the countries that really research brands on social media? Asia sits very well in this range. Vietnam, 62% of them look to social media before buying something or before applying somewhere. Same with Philippines, 62%, Indonesia, 61%, Malaysia, 59%, Thailand, 56%, and Singapore, 38%, against the worldwide benchmark of 42%. So you'll notice that most in Asia, or at least in our region, are really reviewing brands before making decisions. More than half of us are doing this. So if you feel that your posts are not seen and your voice is not heard, think again. The data is showing that everyone is reviewing you. Everyone is looking at your posts, at your content to try and make a decision. All right. And the last slide that I have before moving to our next panelist is just how do you measure success? So these are our top 10 social media metrics. All right. So what are we looking at? The first thing when people go on social media as an employer brand, number of followers is important because every time you post content, it only goes out first to that first layer of followers. Number of applicants, of course, because results matter and they have to translate to applications. Engagement rate, quality of hire, retention rate. Are people staying if they find the right brand for them, the right company for them? Employee referrals. So if they like your brand, do they refer their friends, their colleagues, and other people in their network? Cost per hire. This one, everyone expects to go lower because you're on a wider network and you can reach more people at less cost. So definitely, as you become more effective on social media, you should see your cost per hire also going down. Employee review rankings, best employer awards, top employer awards for sure. Net promoter score, NPS. This simply answers the question, how likely are you to refer us to a colleague or a friend? And the last one is employee referral participation rate. What percentage of your employees actually participate in your referral program? So they're not just making it a business, but there's really a significant number of people in your company that are participating in the program because they love your employer brand. All right, so I'll pause here and I'm going to take a look at Q&A. But for now, we're going to finish off all the slides. So you can just feel free to lodge your questions as you view our panelists' presentations. And then after we view all the presentation decks, we will now move on to the question and answer or panel discussion. All right, so now I turn you over to the next subtopic that we have, which is embracing technology for talent acquisition. Diane, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ange. Happy to be here. But just before I present to you some of the slides that we have crafted for our dear participant today, I just wanted to have do a quick shout out to our friends, colleagues. I'm seeing a lot of attendees coming from the SM Group, San Miguel, Ginebra San Miguel, Shearwater, St. Luke's, Asia Pro. Hello, everyone. Del Monte, I'm seeing you guys here. So again, if ever any chance, any slide, you feel you have any questions that you want to clarify, feel free to chat it in our group box, and later on, we will be happy to continue the discussion during the Q&A. So thank you so much, Ange. I'll proceed next. So many data was presented in the first 10 to 15 minutes during our webinar. So I wanted now to somehow give you a framework. How are you going to apply all of this data in your virtual recruitment program? So again, as Ange mentioned, everyone is going digital right now, whether you are hiring or you are not, or you are preparing for your next cycle of screening and selection. Before you even do that, I would really encourage you to do an audit first of what's happening right now in your recruitment funnel. We call it, as you can see here, the virtual recruitment program. Before, it's a mixture of online, offline initiatives, but now most of us, most of the organization pushed to the wall. We have to go online because we cannot do at this point face-to-face, or movements right now are very much limited. So wanted to just highlight 4 different stages when you talk about virtual recruitment program. And my experience is really on the screening and selection part. But before we even do that, we have to have, of course, a very good number or ample size volume of application coming in as part of your talent attraction and sourcing. And here, I'll be just giving you some tips on how you can amplify, magnify all of this initiative so that you get the numbers that you need to hire. Again, whether you're hiring for just one or for 1,000 candidates, this framework is definitely for you. We'll jump quickly to talent attraction and sourcing. And I know this is like a no-brainer, but making sure that all of the job postings, whether the job description, role responsibility, culture, DNA, everything that you post online, make sure that it's simple, relevant, and it can really connect to the audience that you want to target. Remember, all of this information acts also as a filtering tool. So a classic example, if you tell your talents that you are a tech company, you are forward-thinking organization. You value innovation, and when you post it out there, you get to process application with the same similar sentiments or need. Down the road, after 2 or 3 months, you're actually surprised, why are people resigning? The number one reason for that is that they're not able to connect to the brand or to your who you are as an employer. So make sure having a fancy job posting or a fancy website is just one of the things that will convert candidates to the next round of their journey with you during the talent acquisition phase. But make sure that everything that you post are actually authentic, and at the same time it resonates also with regards to who you are as an organization. So again, going back, make sure that if you are writing the job description, role requirements, culture, your brand, it is 100% honest and true. So, and then just before you go, and once you have all of this contents created, crafted, then that's the time you do your job posting, partnering with different job boards, making sure that the career site has everything that you need. But wanted to highlight me being a millennial as well. Make sure that it is also mobile friendly. So when I talk about mobile friendly, we are so used to, okay, let's put everything in our career site. Let's put everything as part of the job description. But remember, patience is also critical for your audience at this point. So if they will have to, I remember hearing this from our partners from Indeed, that according to their data and research, if you require the candidate to scroll more than 7 pages in their mobile, they're not gonna hit the hit button at this point, the apply button. So make sure that simple, relevant, and at the same time strong, all of this information should be part of your talent attraction and sourcing initiative. And then once you have those content available already, then that's the time you do your job posting. Next is that we go to the initial screening. So when you talk about screening and measurement, most of the time this is where we want to ensure that those who are going through the next round of screening would already have at least the core values, the competencies. So whether you're talking about communication, writing skills, what else, or even bucketing them to certain job families within your organization. Ensure, of course, you have to start with identifying the core competencies for the roles that you are processing them for. So again, I think at this point, online initiatives would also help, like video interviews, competency-based assessment conducted online. All of those tools and technologies are already available in the market. So it would be great also to complement it and to help you measure core competencies that you are looking for your talents before you jump into the next portion, which is your selection. So usually the selection process, line managers will come in. You are now much more critical about what they can really do on the job, whether you're talking about the functional, critical, or the technical skills. You might also want to innovate in a way. We even work with some of our clients doing assessment center, all done virtually. So meaning instead of the usual traditional, okay, I'll need to invite 10 people in the room right now, they have to be all physically present. Because of the pandemic, we cannot do that anymore. But thank you so much to our web conferencing tool. You can actually even run virtual assessment center online. So just like what we are doing right now, invite around 6 to 8 candidates. Open the floor, introduce your company, your organization, send them some work cases that they need to work on as a group, and then from there be able to identify who are the best of the best out of all these candidates that you are processing virtually. And of course, opportunity also for your line managers to sit in, observe the entire process, and then boom, hopefully when you go to the last stage of the hiring process, those that you are giving the job offer, your onboarding process are somehow 80 to 100% close match already to what you are looking for as well for your talents. So that's it. Remember, virtual recruitment program, 4-cycle, starting off with the strong talent attraction and sourcing initiative before moving into your screening and then selection and then eventually your hiring and virtual onboarding. My next slide summarizes also some tools and technologies that could help you automate the process of talent acquisition. And again, Source Employer Brand Strength Report in 2020, there are top 5 critical tools and technologies that you have to ensure somehow you have it with you. You're implementing it. If you're not yet implementing it, definitely I'm sure there's a way you guys will be able to beef up your processes with all of these technologies available out there. So number one, job board and site. I think a critical competency that I also want to highlight for us HR talent acquisition practitioner is being cost intelligent as well. There's so many platforms and tools that can offer you all of these initiatives, but at the end of the day, you have to also be able to identify at least 1 or 2 technology that would really give you both the quantity and the quality type of candidate. So again, number one, job board and site. It will always be there because of all the digital initiatives, social media postings that we are doing. Online testing and video interview, definitely. But then again, you have to ensure that you also have your right framework, your competency framework to be able to deploy your online testing and video interview. Applicant tracking system to automate the process of getting all the resumes down to sending them all the documents that they need to sign. Online onboarding tools. So now that you are welcoming your new hires, how do you ensure, even though we are working remotely at this point, you are still able to meet with them virtually, ask your CEO to talk about the organization, and motivate them along the way through all your onboarding, and at the same time, employee collaboration tools. So that's it on my part, Ange.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dayan. That's 2 slides, but super jam-packed with a lot of insights and information. And you're right. We start with the basics. Talent attraction and sourcing has to come. And that's complemented by the slide you mentioned, which is top 1 tool right now is job boards and job sites, because that's how we're going to attract and get the right people in our funnel. So to talk about managing your digital transformation, we now move over to our partner, Indeed. We're very happy to be a partner of Indeed because we've seen the difference it makes in the lives of our customers when it comes to attracting the right talent and really zeroing in on the important demographics and psychographics of the talent that you're looking for. So I'm now going to turn over this virtual floor over to Katie Birch from the Indeed team. Katie, over to you.
Thanks so much, Ange, and Diane. Tough slides to follow. You know, they are super useful, and you know, I hope the next few slides can actually help provide some additional support for everyone. So, when we talk about going digital, we know a lot of you have been embracing and using digital in a number of ways over the last couple of decades. It has been a couple of decades. I know, where does the time go? However, talent acquisition has actually maintained a large in-person element. So going digital for the now normal of talent acquisition may require a bit of a shift in the strategy or the processes. Now, Diane actually just talked about the virtual recruiting program, which is super helpful. But we also know that not everyone's there yet. So they'll ask, where do we begin? And when we think about where we begin, the first step I recommend is breaking down to the core elements of your strategy. Now I know, and I'm sure you're all thinking right now, this is a very simplified representation of recruitment strategies, and yes, it is. It does, however, help or support focus areas that can be used as really strong starting points for deep diving on each of the elements. So the second step is then to look at why each of them are actually important to address and combine as part of your holistic strategy. So the first one is employer branding. So employer branding is very simply creating awareness for your business, culture, and the opportunities that you have. The second point is job advertising and positioning. So really, availability of opportunities that are available to the job seekers. Sourcing, targeted outreach to potential candidates, and of course, assessments and interviews to assist in supporting top tier talent. So let's move on to the next slide. And this is going to be a fun one. Yes, this is a house. I know you're all thinking this image may not have anything to do with recruitment, so allow me to explain. When I look at this image, I think about the saying to get your house in order, meaning to arrange your affairs to solve your problems. So referring back to those 4 core elements, let's think about their contributions to getting your house in order. Employer branding, I see as that fundamental element. It's the foundation of your strategy. It's something that provides a consistency, a continuity for the message that you want to share with people who are engaging with your brand or considering working for you. But because that element is always there, when you take your next, two approaches, 2 strategies to market, so job advertising and positioning or sourcing, they will actually benefit from having that employer branding consistency as the foundation element. So that will strengthen them, that will rise them up. And the other top side of that is the assessments and interviews. So the assessment and interviews is that next stage, and again, I'll refer to the virtual recruitment program, that you take the candidates that you find from inbound and outbound through to the next level so that you can actually, identify the top talent. And of course, once your house is in order, you can make your hire. Now, what I do want you to imagine, and I haven't got a fancy digital animation here for you, but if you take one of these elements out, the house won't stand. So it's important just to remember that having all the elements addressed is how you have that strong and solid opportunity to address your strategy holistically. So the reality is, and we'll just thank you, the reality is that recruitment strategies haven't changed. It's just the platforms have. We still have inbound recruiting. We still have outbound recruiting. When we think about, and next slide please, when we think about the fundamental elements of recruiting that do remain consistent, the 3 that we like to think about are candidate targeting. So promoting your jobs to candidates who are looking for an opportunity like yours. Employer branding, that's the foundation, telling your story and building your brand to encourage the right candidates to apply. And then the sourcing and screening, so providing easily find and identify exactly your strongest candidates and reduce your time to hire. So hopefully we have an opportunity to talk more about this in the Q&A. But what technologies are you using for candidate targeting? Is it job advertising? Are you looking for, promotion for increased visibility? Are you using or utilizing the opportunities for data-driven targeting? For employer branding, how are you featuring your company? What's the featured positioning you have available? Is there somewhere that you're communicating your company and cultural insights and highlights? And for sourcing and screening, what technology are you using for resume databases or pre-screening and assessments, even to help manage your talent pipeline? So we go on to the tools available, and one of the greatest things about going digital is that the tools we have available now provide analytics. Analytics is such a powerful opportunity. They're data and insights that you need to make the right hire quickly and easily, but also most of the time cost effectively, or more cost effectively than we've been able to do in the past. So the tools available for analytics for candidate targeting, we'd look at our hiring insights. Maybe there's a campaign dashboard, performance measurement for the campaigns that you're running, industry benchmarking. For employer branding, brand analytics, engagement insights, and competitive benchmarks. And for sourcing and screening, resume dashboards to support that pipeline management of candidates, and also response and success measurement so that you can actually assess some of the gaps that you might have to create greater efficiencies moving forward. And so we've actually provided a case study here from McDonald's to ensure that everyone's aware of the brand. Yes, McDonald's is a fast food chain across the globe. They are very successful. But McDonald's have actually provided a quote that said, with Indeed, we can reach the job seekers we need for roles right across the UK. And so if we break down the case study, the background was that they had about 750,000 people applying each year for jobs at McDonald's. So a really high applicant volume, not so high on the quality levels for each of the candidates. They had a variety of online sources for the candidate applications, but they were really trying to look for an opportunity to collaborate with a technology tool that could bring that process all together and create those efficiencies. So the solution for McDonald's was we focused on a cost per application and conversion model, so pay for performance. With the sponsored jobs traffic for their roles increasing by 2,250%, which they were very excited about. It actually helped prioritize roles that they need to prioritize to get more quality applications. And the result for them was fantastic. It increased their fill rate from application to hire. It significantly reduced their time to hire, which obviously has financial gains. And their easy campaign management working with the Indeed team also provide greater efficiencies for their teams, so their teams could focus on the top of that funnel again. So I hope that's been helpful, and obviously we're staying on to have some more conversations. So I'll throw back to you, Ange.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Katie. Wow, those are tough words to swallow, getting your house in order during this time. All right, so we're jumping into the panel discussions, and I can see that there's some questions that have already come in. We have one from Georgia de la Cruz. Hi, Georgia. In terms of speed connections, of course, we know that the Philippines is the slowest. So where do social media platforms come into play in terms of support to ensure that a lot more Philippine people get connected and use their platforms? So I'm bringing back Katie and Diane. I guess another follow-up question that I'm going to add here is, what do you look for when you're getting on these platforms to make sure that it works for you, it works for your audience? Who wants to start? Let's go with Diane first. Diane?
Thank you so much, Ange, for that question. And I guess I would answer it in a way, the competency that I talked about earlier, being cost intelligent also. I know that there's a lot of social media platforms that you can actually use. You have Facebook, what else? Viber, Twitter, YouTube, and everything.
Instagram.
A lot of social media platforms wherein you can do your job posting. But at the end of the day, when you run your analytics, which among all of those social media platforms will give you both the quantity and the quality candidates that you are looking for. So if you're able to answer that question, and given the limitation when it comes to infrastructure that we are experiencing right now in the Philippines, then you can probably highlight the top 2 social media accounts that can give you the numbers that you need, and at the same time can also give you the quality candidates that you need. And then from there, be able to identify which social media platforms you can prioritize, given that we also have a limitation also in our infrastructure right now.
Right. Thanks, Diane. You're absolutely correct. I couldn't agree more. I think it's really also, let's not look at all the platforms. One size fits none. Let's just look at the platforms that are working and adjusting to the bandwidth of our current situation. Absolutely. There's another question. I'll throw this one to Katie. In terms of interns, so Grisabel Dalai said that my current company largely recruits for interns. How can we attract them? And also, we're a startup company. So what are the ways that we can do this? Katie?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, because it's relevant for a number of startups. I think if we go back to thinking about that employer branding opportunity, there are a number of tools that are actually free, right? So you can create company pages for free to promote your business. You know, within that environment, you could actually create a section that talks about your internship program, you know, and then take that content to promote in some of your social channels or your professional social channels. So again, those social channels do have the option for you to use their tools for free. I think one of the greatest things that sometimes we can easily forget is the people that we actually have in our business already can actually do a lot of good to promote the initiatives that we have. So if you're all working together, if everyone's using their own networks and helping build from there, for startup businesses, it's a really great place to start.
Nice. Thanks, Katie. Couldn't agree more. There's a lot to do. There's a lot we can do, in fact. And so now I'm going to throw the question back to our audience. So we've got a lot of people listening, both here in Zoom and on Facebook. So for those that are able to answer the panel, or even on Facebook, just feel free to chat us. We're going to launch a poll. What online media platforms are you using to showcase your employer brand? So whether you're hiring for interns or you're hiring for various roles, what platforms are you currently using? There you go. So what platforms are you currently using? Let's quit this poll and move on to the next one. I'll end this poll first, but I can see a lot of people answering. Okay, I'll keep this one. So sorry about that. There's a quick reverse. I'll keep this poll first. And this will be the first question I ask, right? What is your current involvement in your company's employer branding efforts? So over to what Katie mentioned about how important employer branding is and being able to communicate your culture, your work environment. What is your current involvement in your company's employer branding efforts? All right, so we're seeing answers coming in. Really, really interesting. Again, I guess because this group is a very solid TA recruitment group, we can end the poll in a few seconds and we can see the results. All right. Let's end this poll and check out our results. All right, there you go, 71%. Obviously, we're pushing employer brand because we are in recruitment marketing. And there's also 42% that said employee engagement. This is something that we need to engage our employees right now. And then a few have said brand communication, planning and coordination, and employer brand metrics. So still very few companies really involved on the metric side of things, but more on the recruitment marketing piece. And then we'll launch the second question. So I'll ask it to everyone again. In terms of social media platforms, what are the platforms you currently use? Are you on Indeed, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, or other platforms? All right, so I'm waiting for the numbers to come in. Let's give everyone a few seconds to answer that. But right now, as the numbers are moving, 100% of people are on Facebook. And this one is a given, I think, where, you know, as we're waiting for respondents, I just wanted to share that you really have this blurred line of personal networks and also work networks, because you want to be where your talents are. You don't really push them just to go to your site, to go to your page. You have to meet them halfway and meet them where they are. And I guess there are platforms that allow you to do that, where you come and meet halfway, where companies showcase their brand, but at the same time, people are naturally there. Okay, so we are ending that poll and we can see that Facebook is top one, 95%. And then we're seeing LinkedIn come in second, Indeed coming in third, Instagram fourth, Twitter fifth, and YouTube last place. So this is interesting to me. Twitter is above YouTube. I thought that everybody's coming into videos now, and of course our bandwidth, I guess, is the limitation here, because we still have that kind of restriction or limitation when it comes to viewing videos at a very easy in an easy manner. All right, so thank you very much for your responses. We're seeing some questions come in again, so I'm just gonna be throwing these questions to our panelists over here. All right, from Susie Belisario, thank you for your question. For Diane, how do we go about creating a strong value proposition EVP content during this pandemic? and what do people value right now? So I think this is something that Diane can absolutely answer, but Katie, I'll give you some time to pick it up as well, because I know that you have a lot of insights here. So Diane, over to you.
Thank you so much, Susie, for that question. I love to answer this because we've recently published, run through our audit, employer brand audit, halfway of 2020, and we found out across Southeast Asia, there are top two values right now that employees see important at this point in time, and that is first, and Ange, feel free to also weigh in. First is recognition, next followed by work-life balance, and third is work environment and safety. So, but then again, Susie, this is a result that came over when we launched it to more than 500 organizations during the pandemic days. So it might change company per company. And what I would recommend for you to do is to conduct your own internal employer branding audit to also identify what do your employees need at this point in time and be able to benchmark it against the other group right now.
All right, thanks, Diane. Katie?
Yeah, I was along the same lines. We ourselves at Indeed have actually just recently had our Voices of Indeed employee engagement surveys run, and we do that twice a year. For the same reason, there are a number of elements that are definitely a consistency, but there's also that need to find out exactly what your team, value, and generally the people who, value the business or share the values of the business end up also being your greatest advocates, who also then support things like your talent attraction through referrals. So there's a definite benefit of talking to the people who are in the business right now.
All right, and there's a question that's related to that. Feel free to respond from Miko Lancy Hicarte. Hello, Miko. How would you consistently maintain employer branding at this time? For example, that you will be proceeding with purely social media recruitment. So how do you push employer branding when it's all on social media? Are there any tips from you guys, Katie, Diane?
Do you want to go first, Diane?
All right, no worries, Katie. I was hoping that you will go first, but
I'm happy. I'm happy to go first if you like.
I think you'll be able to manage this question well.
Okay, no worries.
Go for it, Katie.
I think it's a great question, because again, it goes back to some of our startup partners who are really looking to maximize the opportunities they have without requiring large investments or any investment for some cases. And so social media does play a really big part in that. And for me, I believe that the consistency itself is key. So actually sitting down and thinking about the content that you plan on promoting through those social channels is important. Who's going to share that content, when, the timing, in terms of, is it something that's relevant to a particular season? Is it something that's relevant to a particular timing for your business? But sit down with the key contributors who are going to participate and really lead the initiative, and work out how you're going to plan it across a 12-month period. Funnily enough, when you actually go through that process, you can easily find that you have more content than you know what to do with. So then you've got to start thinking about how you can use it strategically across the 12 months. But definitely, I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
And right. And go ahead, Diane.
Yeah, in addition to what Katie mentioned, on top of consistency, Miko, you also need to be authentic enough. So don't say that you're a tech-driven company if internally you are not. You're doing everything manual at this point. So make sure that all your contents, all your videos, write-ups, whatever that is that you are posting in different social media channel, it is 100% true. And at the same time, it really resonates who you are as an employer.
Right. Thanks, Diane. And I wanted to add to that by sharing our very own initiatives at TalentView. So Miko, don't hesitate to use your current programs or your own employees, because they're the ones that are on social media anyway. So they're already there. And if they can talk about your company and the programs that you're running at this point, I think that would be a great start. So at Talent View, some of the activities we have an activity called Fitness Fridays. So everyone just comes onto Zoom and does an exercise activity together. And people love to share that. And they just take a picture or a screenshot, they share that on LinkedIn, they share that on Facebook, and you'll see that a lot of responses are coming in from applicants or people that are just generally interested in following our content. We also have an event called Better Breakfast. So once a week, a selected random group of people will just come together and have breakfast together. And the questions will go, what are you eating for breakfast today? What's your morning routine like? And everybody starts to share and then also shares that on their own social media platforms. So it doesn't mean that it's on social media and everything is virtual, that you don't have content. You, in fact, have a lot of content. We just have to be creative about it. So when it comes to onboarding now, we have a question from Monina Zabala. Thank you very much for your question, Monina. Will you be able to share some of the online onboarding tools that are available in the market, or any tips on how to make your onboarding effective during this time? So I'll start with Katie, and then we'll move to Diane on just the general topic of onboarding. Katie?
Yes, so I know that there are a number of online onboarding tools that are available, but I think it's definitely important to do some research because it's going to depend on what suits you best. To be honest, for myself, I actually onboarded 7 people in April, probably actually 2 days after we went into lockdown. So we didn't have a tool, we didn't have something that was set up. And what we did was actually, turn our heads inward and worked with the people who were we were bringing into the business to determine how best they were going to learn in a digital environment. Again, this was at a time where we didn't know anything. We didn't know how long it was going to last. We didn't know, what sort of challenges we were going to face. So I just think, definitely look at some tools available, but also make sure that it's going to work for how your business operates and the team that you're onboarding.
Thanks, Katie. Diane, any thoughts on onboarding in general or tips for our audience today?
Yeah, probably just go back again in terms of resources. If you have some money to spend, definitely a lot of tools can, you can use a lot of tools that are paid as of the moment. But if you don't have money to spend at this point, there are also a lot of free tools that you can definitely use. So just wanted to share with you in Talent View, before we were doing also onboarding online, we're just using Google Meet, Zoom, this Zoom interface to meet virtually with our talents, but now in terms of onboarding and engaging them, we are now using Workplace by Facebook as a way to continuously communicate, to message, to see them virtually, even though everything right now is happening online. So I guess I just have to circle back again in terms of make an audit first. Do you have the budget to spend? If you don't have, then look for other free online initiatives that you can have at this point.
Awesome. A quick follow-up to that from Elaine Gallardo. What do you think of Instagram? Is that a great platform for employer branding, Diane? Would you recommend it? Is it aligned to the audit that you were saying?
Yeah, I think Instagram is also getting its spot right now as one of the top 10 social media platforms that is being used to promote your brand, both product and at the same time employer branding initiative. So, but then again, if you don't have the data that will support that, Instagram can really give you the conversion that you need. I would again circle back to work first with the data, understand first where you are really good at before deploying into such platform.
Awesome. All right. So we're winding down to our last few questions and then getting the closing thoughts from our panel today. So second to the last question, how do you ensure that your content marketing plan is sustainable and that your social media presence remains as fresh as possible despite limited sources during this time? So Katie, I'll move this question over to you first, and then again, Diane, if you wanted to add your thoughts.
Yeah, I love this because I think this is something that we're all experiencing a challenge with. Again, from what Diane said before, authentic content is key, but it does create a challenge where you're thinking, okay, maybe people don't want to see what everyone's having for breakfast. However, Diane and Ange did just talk about some of the virtual events that they're hosting. So might not be as many company events in person to cover, but if there is a schedule of employee engagement that you can use, that is going to help ensure that that content marketing plan stays relevant and fresh, despite some of those challenges.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I guess going back also to that would be the bandwidth. So Joyce Gabriel had a question on bandwidth that I wanted to quickly answer. She was saying, you know, how do you keep the engagement if we have poor internet connection? So I guess it goes back to being able to review the platforms and making sure that you're using platforms that can accommodate the bandwidth we have. Unfortunately, we can't do much about it, right? I mean, there's infrastructure issues that have to come into play. But what we can do as organizations or as professionals in TA is to make sure we're using platforms that are easy for us and for our candidates to use during this period. So Diane, anything you wanted to add on that content piece as well? How do you stay relevant and consistent? Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, I think I would echo the same thing what Katie mentioned earlier, and also to add, probably having one point person to manage all the content initiatives would also be helpful. I know, guys, raise your hand here if you are just one person in talent acquisition doing everything.
Oh my gosh, a lot of people raising their hands, I think. Are you the sole person in talent acquisition? Please raise your hand.
So that's the
Oh my
only
gosh.
pledge that we have to wear. You're not only marketing, you're also the recruiter, you're the interviewer, you are the legal person handing over the paper and all everything else. So, and at the same time, after that, you're the person who will be training your new hires. So
Correct.
of this question of content marketing plan, if you want to be authentic and you want to also be consistent in all of this platform, ensure that you're also able to follow through the content plan that you have released.
Awesome. All right. So some people raising their hands really fast when we ask them to say, are you a one-man team? And some people like Jojo, hi Jojo again, saying, lucky enough to have an efficient team working with me. All right. So whatever that situation is, we'd love to continue this conversation. Again, I'm inviting everyone to just use the hashtags Webinar Wednesday and hashtag TalentView Learning when sharing this event on your social media and how you found it. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up. There are a lot more questions. We're happy to connect on LinkedIn, but we're going to wrap up and ask Diane and Katie, what are their closing messages? I'll start with Katie. And Katie, I do have one question for you. We love Indeed, but maybe it's good to share to our audiences also as you give your closing message. What is unique and different about Indeed? Why should they consider it and take a look at it as a platform to use during this time? Katie, over to you.
Thanks, Ange, and I appreciate the question. I think Indeed is really quite new for a lot of people in Southeast Asia, and we appreciate that. We have actually been active for over 10 years now, which is quite amazing when I think about how quickly time flies. But Indeed for me has always been an exciting opportunity in regards to being almost a one-stop shop. It provides a lot of opportunities to contribute to those elements of recruitment and talent attraction, you know, in one place where you can manage the talent, you can do sourcing, you can go in and advertise your roles, and you can, you know, provide the opportunity for employer branding. But the real thing is the analytics that are available, and I love being able to assess things. I'm analysing everything. I want to make sure that everything that we do is effective and efficient. Otherwise, we'll look for greater solutions. And the platform itself to use is actually free. So I know everyone loves that. I know everyone loves that you can actually
Everyone loves free. That is awesome news, Katie.
you can just jump on board, have a look, you know, see which elements might work for you, and you know, there are a lot of tools that are available to support you. For Indeed itself, we have a value that's we help people get jobs, and that's what we live and breathe every day. So having the free opportunities there, you know, really can support startups and enterprises alike. But there's also, you know, some paid opportunities for, you know, different products or different capabilities. So yes, it's obviously a business, but I love that it is trying to be inclusive for all and providing those tools for everyone. So
Awesome.
I do want to just say thank you so much, Ange and Diane, for having me today and including me in this. Employer branding is definitely a big passion of mine. So having a chance to talk about my house always, you know, gets me excited. And I really hope that it's been beneficial for our audience.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Katie. Diane, final words for our audience today.
Yeah, Ange and Katie, thank you again for inviting me to be part of this webinar. I enjoy all the questions and everything, but just a simple, probably closing reminder. I know that there's a lot of technologies that you can make use of right now, but at the end of the day, use something, deploy something that is simple and easy to use so that it won't also complicate your processes. Remember that these technologies are your enablers. At the end of the day, again, just to add that, if you don't have the right, if you don't know who you are as an employer, if you don't know the competencies that you're trying to assess, or if you don't know at all what you are looking for a talent, even if you have a very fancy, good tools and technologies, it wouldn't be effective. So let's just go back again one step backward and analyze where you are right now, who you are as an employer, what you're looking for a talent before you deploy all of these massive technologies that is available out there.
Awesome. Brilliant advice. Thank you again, Diane. Thank you, Katie. So if you have any more conversations, let's continue that on social media. Again, please feel free to use hashtag Webinar Wednesday, hashtag TalentViewLearning. And, you know, as I thank everybody, we're launching the feedback survey. Whatever reports and PowerPoint presentations that we share today, we will share with you via email. So please watch out for that in the next 24 hours. The Employer Brand Strengths Report, the full report will be shared to you as you pick up the survey that's coming your way in the polls right now. And I guess also, just to close, wanted to share that for all our audiences, we know that this is not all good news. It's not a walk in the park, but we are in a great position in HR and in talent acquisition to make a difference. Hope is not a strategy. We have to act now. We have to work with our business, partner with our business, and really ensure that we are playing the role we need to play as change maker and as a leader of our organizations. So I hope you do share this feedback with us. However you found this webinar, we'd love to get your feedback and also improve. And as we close out, moving on to the next slides, wanted to let you know that these webinar resources will be sent to you. And we are also sharing with you a new Udemy course we launched on employer branding. So if you have a Udemy account or if you don't have one, just download it. We have rolled out a course called Becoming a World-Class Employer Brand Professional. Check it out on Udemy, please. And you know, if you have any colleagues that you feel this course may be relevant for, please feel free to share with them as well. Okay, and as we move on to the next slide, we'll give you time to answer the feedback survey. Please do that. I know the poll is now on your screen. Please let us know what you thought of this entire conversation. And if you do want to continue the conversation with us, please don't hesitate to follow us on our social media handles. Of course, we're on social media because everybody is. So our website, talentview.asia. Follow us on LinkedIn, TalentView Inc., or the Indeed team as well, Indeed.com on LinkedIn. And you can also email us at learning@talentview.asia. So thank you so much again. And lastly, here are our QR codes. So if you want to connect with us, and I hope you do, Just point your phone to the QR codes for Ange Vera, Katie Birch, and Diane Gonzalez, and we will be immediately connected on LinkedIn. Please feel free to say hi or just drop a note and let us know how we did today. So with that, I wanted to say thank you again, Diane and Katie, for joining us today. Thank you to everyone in our audience who participated in this webinar Wednesday. And we hope to see you in our future learning sessions here at TalentView. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.